Today we are going to break down the entire My Hero Academia Your Next movie, going over the story, Easter eggs, and references made in the film that I'm sure will surprise many of you. Now, the movie begins with opera music playing in the background, sung by actor/musician Paolo Pietro. In a dark room, we see Dark Might watching the All Might vs. All for One fight in Camino. Dark Might gets inspired by All Might and says that he will follow in All Might's footsteps to be the next symbol of peace. In the room, we not only see that Dark Might is obsessed with All Might due to all of the pictures, but he even has some pictures of All Might in his weakened form and a picture of Anna, letting us know that Anna was always a part of Dark Might's grand plan in becoming the next symbol of peace that was set forth thanks to All Might unintentionally inspiring him to be the next symbol. We then cut to Julio listening to the radio, hearing that there has been a crime. Class A responds to the crime, and we see that they are split into three groups. Deku's group having Ochako, Sero, Ojiro, Toru, and Jiro. Bakugo's group consisting of Tokoyami, Kirishima, Ashido, Sato, and Koda. And finally, Shoto's group consisting of Kaminari, Creati, Ida, Frappi, Mineta, and Shoji. The only Class A student to not be in any of the groups is Aoyama, due to him being revealed to be the UA traitor, and the movie taking place in the few days leading up to the all-out war arc. Deku's team, of course, catches the thieves in a big highway chase, and Deku sees Julio on the highway. Deku's team all end up having some banter with Bakugo and Shoto's team on how many villains they caught, but Bakugo gets upset having been outdone by Shoto once again. Deku's team gets word of another dangerous villain causing havoc, where it's revealed that this villain had kidnapped Anna from Dark Might, having lied to her about saving her from them. Deku chases after them, but when he touches Anna, flowers start blooming, causing him to feel pain, and the villain ends up getting stronger thanks to Anna's quirk. Julio, having tracked them down, shoots at the villain and Anna with a sniper rifle, aiming with his fake eye. He ends up getting a clear shot at Anna, but Bruno forms a bubble around Anna, his quirk allowing time within the bubble to slow down, thus making the bullet move in slow motion and saves Anna. Dark Might then shows up on a floating yacht surrounded by the Golini family, them being Bruno, Paulo, Camille, Simon, Hugo, Jill, and Deborah. Dark Might and the gang take Anna. She, of course, struggles for a bit, but Deborah uses her brainwashing quirk, Daydream, and puts Anna into a trance, and she willingly joins the Dark Might gang. Dark Might also ends up killing the villain that betrayed him, the one who had stolen Anna from him. Dark Might tosses up coins, creating a microphone and a bunch of cameras and drones, and takes control over all of the TVs around Japan and announces to Japan that he is All Might and he will become the next symbol of peace, since Japan is missing one, as it's thanks to the world having no symbol that Japan is in the current state that it is and having been abandoned by the rest of the world. Deku calls out Dark Might for tainting the legacy of All Might. The pro heroes, seeing this, reveals that Dark Might is accompanied by the Golini family, one of the most dangerous mafia families from Europe. Dark Might then takes Anna and uses her quirk to amplify his quirk in order to create a massive All Might themed floating fortress that consumes/destroys everything in its path. Anna's hair begins to turn black as a result of her quirk being used. Amongst the chaos, Class A try to save the civilians from getting consumed by the fortress and Dark Might's creation quirk, but they are all consumed by it and get trapped within the fortress, and once the fortress is created, it leaves a giant crater in the ground. Deku's team end up in a forest, and here it's revealed that Dark Might's quirk is actually very similar to Creati's creation quirk, as he can create things out of thin air. Dark Might's quirk, which we later find out is called alchemy, allows him to transmute the matter of anything he touches, and when boosted by Anna's quirk, he can create things on a grander scale without the need to physically touch it. He can even constantly create and shift things around in the fortress, like creating doors in the walls or holes in the floors. Dark Might's quirk, being called alchemy, is actually a reference to Bones' previous work on Full Metal Alchemist, with the coins Dark Might uses acting as the equivalent of exchange in order for him to create different things. Keeping on with the Full Metal Alchemist references, the main theme song for the movie is called Homunculus, which were the main antagonists of the Full Metal Alchemist series. Also, Dark Might being an imposter version of All Might is a reference to how Father from Full Metal Alchemist took the appearance of Ed and Alphonse's dad, Van Hohenheim. So thanks to Bones being the ones behind adapting both Full Metal Alchemist and My Hero Academia, there really is no surprise that Full Metal Alchemist references and Easter eggs pop up in My Hero Academia from time to time. Also, Dark Might unmasking himself and revealing to be All Might is a reference to how Hush from Batman takes off his bandages and is revealed to be Bruce Wayne, aka Batman. Continuing on, Bakugo's team ends up in an amusement park, and Shoto's team ends up in a European-looking city where all of the civilians get transported as well. Dark Might ends up having a conversation with the real All Might to try and get All Might's support. All Might tries to reason with Dark Might about letting everyone go and telling Dark Might what he's doing is wrong and how he would never do this himself. Dark Might tells All Might that he can't let them go because they are all his test subjects for what he has planned. All Might calls Dark Might out on being a villain who does as he pleases, saying that he is shrouded by darkness and is nothing like him. Dark Might laughs, agreeing with All Might and noticing that the name Dark Might has a nice ring to it and will now officially be going by the name Dark Might instead of All Might. All Might tells Dark Might that he already has chosen his true successors and they will be the ones to stop him. After his call with All Might is over, Dark Might, knowing of All Might's successor, decides to test Class A in order to find out who All Might's true successor is. Deku's team finds a manhole in the floor and Deku and Ochako volunteer to go check it out, and the two of them use their floating abilities. Deku goes in first and suddenly falls, realizing that one of the villains has a quirk that cancels out other quirks like Aizawa. He warns Ochako to go back to the others and to not come down. Deku continues to fall down the hole and ends up falling off of a mountain and landing in a lake, running into Julio again. Switching over to Shoto's team, and they see Deborah with Anna. Deborah uses Anna to amplify her quirk to brainwash people on a grand scale. The citizens all line up in order to touch Anna, as Deborah is seeing if there are people amongst the crowd who are compatible with Anna's quirk, as in order to have your quirk amplified, you have to be compatible with Anna's quirk. If not, then Anna's quirk knocks out those who touch her as flower petals fall from their bodies, and Deborah has them enter into a dreamlike state where they dream of something that makes them happy. Deborah sees the heroes and puts them all into a happy dream. Kaminari and Mineta end up dreaming about a bunch of girls in bikinis hugging them. Shoto dreams of him being a child again and playing catch with Toya, Natsu, Fuyumi, with Rei and Endeavor at the house, watching them all be a happy family. Toya is happy in Shoto's dream and Shoto smiles as he plays with his family. What makes this scene really sad, in my opinion, is the fact that we know Shoto never really had a moment like this with his family, as he was isolated from playing with and being around his siblings because of Endeavor. This scene really just showed how much Shoto was robbed of having a childhood, and now in reality, instead of having a moment like this with his family and Toya, he has to stop Toya from destroying the world in the upcoming all-out war. Speaking of another person robbed of a life he wished he could have, we have Ida dreaming about working with his brother Tensei as heroes and running together as the Ingenium brothers, which this of course references the fact that Ida had to inherit his brother's hero name Ingenium after Tensei became disabled after his run-in with the hero killer Stain. Creati dreams of drinking tea, Froppy sings in the rain with her family, and probably the most tragic of them all, Shoji dreams of himself with his mask off, walking a small child in a rice field. This of course referencing how Shoji wishes heteromorphs were treated equal and him not needing to hide the way he looks to not scare others by his scars, and him being a heteromorph. We then switch over to Bakugo's team as they leave the museum and end up in a dungeon. Dark Might shows up in a very flashy masquerade costume, telling Bakugo's team that they have to fight their way out of the dungeon, and Bakugo yells at Dark Might about how he would never be like All Might. Dark Might gets a little frustrated as none of them understand what he's trying to do, and he opens the floor beneath the heroes and they fall into the dungeon. Creatures then fill up the dungeon and Bakugo and his team begin to fight the creatures while Simon watches them on a TV screen to see who is going to survive the battle. Back to Deku and Julio, the two end up finding and fighting Paulo and some other villains. Deku eventually figures out that Paulo's quirk allows him to create a large dome-shaped area that deactivates the quirks of anyone within its range, on top of being able to create a smaller bubble within the dome that allows those within that bubble to use their quirks. Deku figures out how to avoid getting his quirk cancelled by having Julio distract them as he gets within the bubble to once again use his quirk and beat Paulo and the other villains. Dark Might shows up via creating a balcony on the wall as he claps his hands congratulating Deku. Deku tries to attack Dark Might, but Dark Might blocks the attack and hits Deku with a Bologna smash, knocking Deku out. Dark Might's smashes are of course named after cities in Italy, representing Dark Might's Italian heritage, which this of course is a reference to All Might's smashes being named after the states in America. Julio grabs Deku and retreats, and Paulo is then taken to Dark Might, and Dark Might says how disappointed he is that Paulo has once again let him down after being given multiple chances. Dark Might then says he hopes Paulo reincarnates and comes back to him in the next life, and kills Paulo by dropping him into a manhole where all that can be heard is his body hitting the ground. After Dark Might leaves, he figures that Deku is most likely All Might's successor and gets angry as Deku actually was able to cut the side of his face as his face begins to heal itself. We switch back over to Ochako and the rest of Deku's team as they use Sero's tape to go down the hole Deku fell in. They end up on the top of the snowy mountain Deku had fallen off of, and as soon as they step foot on the mountain, the ground opens up below them, taking them to Shoto's group in the city, where they also fall under Deborah's daydream quirk. Unfortunately, we don't get to see what makes Ochako and the group happy, which sucks, and I do think this was a wasted opportunity to show more from the other characters and how they feel, but mostly because I really wanted to see what Ochako's dream consisted of and if it was possibly Deku related, because we know from her fight with Toga in the All Out War arc that she fell in love with Deku. Anyways, Deku and Julio make their way to Shoto and the others, and Deku sees Ochako unconscious. He rushes to her side and tries to wake her up, but she won't wake up. Deborah then uses her quirk on Deku and Julio, and the pair fall asleep and dream. Deku dreams of a time when he was a child surrounded by a ton of All Might merch. Then all of a sudden All Might appears and starts playing with Deku. The first user of One For All interrupts Deku's dream, telling Deku this is all fake and that he needs to figure out how to escape. Deku sees the others dreaming, all of them being stuck inside of a house, where each section of the house is one of his friend's dreams. A fun little sad Easter egg I noticed when watching the movie is that one of the dreams visible in the house is Toru's dream, but in her dream she is visible doing her hair, meaning that deep down she wishes that she can be seen like a normal girl. Now, since this dream realm is created by a quirk, One For All being a quirk that can meddle with other quirks, the first user takes Deku onto the street of Deku's neighborhood in the realm. Deku then sees Julio and his dream, where he still has his arm, leg, and eye. In the dream, Julio is serving Anna tea by the balcony, where Anna asks Julio to join her and he declines because he is her butler. Anna gets upset and experiences a sharp pain, but Julio places his right hand on her, calming her down, and states that he will never leave her side. Deku snaps Julio out of it, and Julio notices that his eye, arm, and leg are all back. Deborah tells one of the brainwashed civilians to choke Julio, and as he is doing it, Deku tries to help Julio, and Julio subconsciously uses his fake eye to track Deborah in the real world, and uses his prosthetic right arm to shoot at Deborah, causing her to break her hold on everyone including Anna. This lets us know that Deborah's daydream quirk doesn't affect Julio's prosthetic limbs, as he can still make them act subconsciously when his body can't act for him. Anna, seeing Julio, gets excited and begins to run towards him, but Julio aims his gun at her to end Anna's life. He looks upset, pointing the gun at her, and Anna, understanding Julio, accepts her death, and Julio pulls the trigger. But Deku points the gun in the air, causing Julio to miss. Deborah takes this chance to escape with Anna, and Julio is furious with Deku for not letting him end her life, as it was his only chance at having a clean shot at her. Deku says he couldn't let him do that because he looked like he was in pain aiming the gun at Anna. So Julio finally decides to tell Deku his and Anna's history. Here, it's revealed that Julio was hired by Anna's father to be her butler, specifically because he has a quirk called neutralization that allows him to temporarily nullify someone's quirk factor whenever he touches them with his right arm. In Anna's case, his quirk helps alleviate her pain by sharing the pain with her and temporarily disabling her quirk, and allowing her to live a somewhat normal life instead of being completely isolated like she once was before Julio had arrived to work for her father. Anna suffers a lot of painful seizures from her quirk, which is the reason why her hair changes colors from blonde to black. Since the use of her quirk adds on to the burden her body will suffer. So every time she is in pain, Julio calms her down with his quirk. Julio tells Anna that he will never leave her side, and one night Anna, after suffering from her quirk, tells Julio that her condition is getting worse, and asks Julio that if her quirk was to ever go out of control, that he would have to kill her. Eventually, a group of villains, that being the Golini family, found out about Anna's quirk over modification and raided the mansion, killing everyone in the mansion, including Anna's father. Julio is left in critical condition, having lost his eye, right arm, and left leg, and Anna is taken. Back to the present, Julio, after telling Deku everything, says that this is why it's his mission to kill Anna, so that she doesn't have to suffer from her quirk and so that she wouldn't be used by villains, essentially keeping his word to Anna. Deku and Class A tell him that there is another way and that they will save Anna, and Deku says one of his goals is to make Julio smile again, just like how he smiled in his dream. Switching back to Bakugo's team as they end up making it out of the dungeon. Bakugo finds Simon and defeats Simon with one giant explosion. After being defeated, a hole opens up beneath Simon, which kills him just like Paulo. After this, Bakugo's team meets up with the rest of Class A. Now, while this is happening on the outside, the fortress is making its way to UA in order to destroy UA and finally mark the beginning of the Age of Dark Might. All Might and the Pro Heroes try to hold off the fortress from destroying its surroundings and making it to UA. Lemillion shows up within the fortress to help Class A evacuate the civilians. Bakugo tells everyone to help and protect the civilians, while Deku, Shoto, Tokoyami, and himself, along with Julio, head to the castle to fight Dark Might and save Anna. The five of them end up in a coliseum where Dark Might summons more monsters to take out our heroes. Tokoyami tells Deku and the others to go ahead without him, as he will stay behind to fight off all of the monsters, and they leave Tokoyami behind. As they approach the castle where Dark Might and Anna are inside of, they are met by Jill and Hugo Golini. Shoto and Bakugo begin fighting the two villains, while Deku and Julio push forward to the castle. Switching over to Endeavor on the outside, all of the pro heroes are trying to stop the fortress. Endeavor uses a ton of Flash Fire Fist attacks, including Prominence Burn, to melt part of the fortress, but despite their efforts, Dark Might just makes the fortress as good as new. Dark Might from within the fortress creates more creatures where Class A have to fight them in order to protect the civilians. Deku and Julio end up coming across Bruno, and Deku, knowing that Bruno can create a bubble that slows down time, he charges up Fa Jin and becomes so fast that he is able to get through the bubble at a decent speed, sending Bruno crashing through a wall, taking him out of the fight. Dark Might, Anna, and Deborah end up in a field, and it's revealed that the reason why Dark Might looks like All Might is due to an illusion he's been using to make himself look like All Might. In reality, he's actually the boss of the Golini family, Baldo Golini. Switching back to Bakugo and Shoto, as they are trying to figure out a way to defeat the two villains blocking their way, as Hugo can use telekinesis and Jill can teleport. They figure out that in order for Jill to teleport, he needs to be able to see the ground he's going to land on. Here the two team up, and we get an amazing scene with Bakugo and Shoto exploding and destroying the land to obscure Jill's vision and place to teleport, and Shoto uses his eyesight to capture the villains. Them teaming up in the movie is actually a reference to the A Piece of Cake one-shot that takes place moments before the movie, where in Deku's notebook it said if Shoto and Bakugo were to team up, they would be invincible. Of course, this pisses Bakugo off, with Shoto actually being willing to team up with him. While this isn't shown in the movie, it's really cool to see this come full circle, with the two eventually teaming up in this moment, and as well as later on with Deku. Back to Deku and Julio, as Dark Might finally takes off his suit to reveal the Silver Age All Might suit underneath. Both Deku and Julio fight Dark Might and try to save Anna from his control. Julio actually gets a really cool scene where he goes one-on-one with Dark Might, even unloading his gun on Dark Might, but Dark Might does get the upper hand on both Julio and Deku. As as he restrains Deku with his quirk. Deborah uses Anna to amplify her daydream quirk to make Julio fall into another dream state, and Deborah tells Anna to kill Julio in his sleep with a dagger. Outside the fortress, Endeavor keeps hitting the fortress with his prominence burn and shakes the entire fortress, causing Anna to drop the dagger before she can kill Julio, and the heroes end up saving the civilians from the fortress. Deku calls out to Julio to try and wake him up, and it fails, but Julio unconsciously uses his prosthetic arm to shoot at Deborah again, but he doesn't have any bullets left, so he uses his prosthetic leg to blast his body like a rocket at Deborah and crashing the two of them into some rocks, which once again causes Deborah's hold over Anna to drop, and Anna regains consciousness. Bakugo and Shoto join Deku, teaming up to fight Dark Might together, but Dark Might takes Anna and uses her quirk to amplify his own, which in turn makes him stronger and as buff, if not buffer, than All Might. With Dark Might becoming as strong as All Might in his prime, here he undergoes a sort of Sailor Moon transformation, as he no longer is wearing All Might's Silver Age costume, but is now wearing All Might's Golden Age suit. Switching back to Tokoyami, as he is being overwhelmed in his fight and is about to lose. Hawks comes floating down into the Coliseum and joins Tokoyami, helping his pupil win the fight. With Hawks entering the picture, it's revealed that the pro heroes managed to break through the fortress from the outside and join Class A in the fight against the Golini family, with Mirko really stealing the show as she completely runs through a ton of Dark Might's creatures. Camille also gets ran up on and is taken out easily by Mirio at some point. Back to the ultimate team up, we see the trio go all out and fight Dark Might as a team. The battle itself was epic, and seeing Deku, Bakugo, and Shoto truly work together as a team was absolutely beautiful, both visually and emotionally, as all of them have this deep connection to All Might, and seeing someone use All Might's face and willingly try to ruin the legacy of the hero they all looked up to definitely made this really personal for them, and does really hit hard, as they are the reflection of what All Might had left behind. They are next. They are All Might's true successors. Of course, Yusei Run does come back once again for this epic fight, perfectly going with the action and beautiful animation. At the end of the fight, Bakugo manages to take away Dark Might's illusion with his explosions, revealing what Dark Might truly looks like. Bakugo and Shoto tell Deku to finish off Dark Might, and Deku uses the power of One for All, delivering powerful smashes, naming off multiple states, taking down Dark Might. All of the states Deku names off in the fight are Detroit, Texas, Wyoming, Carolina, Missouri, California, New Hampshire, Oklahoma, and St. Louis. Smash. Dark Might, after being defeated by Deku, has a flashback to the day he gunned down his father and took over the Golini family, as that day his father told Baldo that he wouldn't achieve All Might's level. Julio finally wakes up and tries to get to Anna, who falls unconscious. Anna's quirk spirals out of control, causing her to have a massive seizure, completely turning her hair black. This allows Dark Might's quirk to become even more amplified, turning him into a super powered monster, with a slight resemblance to All Might, as his monster form still references All Might's hairstyle with the two tufts of hair. Bakugo and Shoto try to stop Dark Might, but get pushed away, and Deku gets knocked out by Anna's quirk, since he isn't compatible with her over modification. The trio are pretty much all laid out at this point. Anna is surrounded by flowers and thorns, and Julio makes his way through them and holds Anna. Julio turns out to be compatible with Anna's quirk and is able to activate his quirk, even though he no longer has his right arm anymore. Anna begins to calm down, allowing our heroes to be no longer affected by Anna's quirk and fight the monster that is Dark Might. Now, somehow Bones outdid themselves with this fight, because Dark Might, Bakugo, Shoto, and Deku just go beyond plus ultra during this fight. Probably the most insane action in the movie. We even get this awesome sequence where Bakugo and Shoto blast Dark Might, and Deku comes in between the two of them, standing side by side with each other as he runs past them, hits Dark Might with the most insane One for All field kicks that looked absolutely insane, because the amount of power Deku lets out with those shoot style smashes completely destroys and splits the fortress in half. After everyone is saved, Class A see Julio holding Anna in his arms as Anna regains consciousness. Julio tells Anna that he was able to cancel out her quirk entirely with his own quirk, as it turned out that his quirk was boosted by her, making it possible in the first place, and she can now live a normal life without feeling that burden and touch and be with whoever she wants to from this point on. Julio then begins to walk away, going off into the sunset, but Anna runs after him, holding him from the back, telling him that she doesn't want him to leave, that he told her that he would be by her side always. And Julio turns around and embraces Anna. The two look into each other's eyes and hug as Class A watches them and smiles. Deku mentions how glad he was to be able to fulfill his mission in making Julio smile again, and Julio laughs. And the movie ends with everyone smiling. But we do get a post-credit scene showing All For One sitting in his throne in the cave, and we see Shigaraki as one of his eyes suddenly opens, cutting to black, officially ending the movie. The post-credit scene here acting as a transition to the all-out war arc. Now, I will say we don't know what happened to Dark Might and the rest of the surviving members of the Golini family, though it's safe to assume that they were all taken to prison, except for the ones that obviously died. As for Anna and Julio, we do know that after the events of the movie, we see them in the anime as they are brought to the UA shelter after the events of the Your Next movie. My Hero Academia Your Next was a blast to watch, definitely a fun ride from beginning to end, and I can't wait to see if Bones and Horikoshi plan on making more My Hero Academia movies in the future. Again, I thought this movie was great, so let me know your thoughts on the movie in the comment section below. With that said, if you enjoyed the video, then be sure to Detroit smash that like button, and if you are new to the Kitoroki channel, then be sure to subscribe to the channel with notifications on so that you don't miss any My Hero Academia videos. With that said, I'll see you all in the next one.